What's going on? Happy Valentine's Day. I feel like I need to sing you a song because it's Valentine's Day like it's your birthday. I'm just popping in to do I did a live on webinars and mapping up the numbers last week, and there was a ton of questions, and I figured I would just come on live and answer some of those questions for you in case you've been thinking the same thing. So we're just going to go through all the different groups and some questions we've been receiving over email and talk all about webbys. And if anything comes up for you while you're watching the replay, then leave it in the comments below, and let's dive in. I've got Alyssa here helping me.
Okay, so the first question is from Jessie, and she is asking, how do you make sure people are actually engaged in your webinar?
Okay, so webinar engagement is something that is awesome for the person presenting it. So for me, when I'm on a webinar and I put questions out there and then I see the chat box blow up, it really makes me feel less crazy, like I'm not just talking to myself, and because you really want that hype and that engagement to be really up. So it makes you feel awesome. It makes your presentation so much better. But I really want you to only have dedicated time for engagement. What's up, Felicia? So I want you to have dedicated time for engagement. If you constantly check your chat and your messages throughout your webinar, for one, it's really going to distract you. And for two, I don't know if you've ever been on a webinar where the presenter is constantly like talking to the chat. It starts to get really annoying. So you want to always have like a little break point in there, and you want to ask them a question. So in terms of engagement, you present every 10 minutes or so, I throw a question out there. And that question is usually not an open-ended question. I usually say something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about so-and-so? So this way they can put in a number, or if I showed you this, would you do this? It's a yes or no question. So keeping engagement up with specific questions that are in line with what you're presenting makes the most sense. Reconnect. I don't know if I lost connection there, but it looks like we're okay. Next question.
Okay.
Next question.
So Julie asks, what time of day works well for your webinars?
Is it backwards for you guys? It says, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. One of my favorite quotes, my girlfriend Alicia got me this cup, and here it's no fox given. Cute. What's the question? Sorry.
So Julie's asking, what time of day do you like to do your webinars? What works well?
I like to do my webinars I like 1 o'clock webinar and a 2 o'clock webinar. I used to always, without fail, do a 7 o'clock webinar. Those webinars are not converting. Happy Valentine's Day. Those webinars are not converting as much. I do get cheaper registrations for my 7 o'clock webinar if I am filling them up on Facebook ads, but my daytime webinars convert better. So you're gonna have to test your audience and see what's up. I have them all in a spreadsheet. This is the day I did them. So Thursday at 1 o'clock, here's how many people registered. Here's how many people showed up. Here's how many people bought. Thank you for the love bombs. And for, I do that for every single webinar, and then I start to see trends. So although my 7 o'clocks were cheaper to fill up and more registrations, my 1 o'clock sold more, which maybe makes sense, right? I'm targeting entrepreneurs who are home and working during the day. They're more likely to be engaged and working on their business. But my 7 o'clocks also work, just not as gangbusters as my daytime ones.
Okay, the next question is from Adam, and he is saying, how do you choose a good webinar topic?
Okay, webinar topic, it's one of these things that I always, tell my clients, it's like a lead magnet, right? There's a difference between what you want to talk about and what you want to coach, and then between what your audience actually wants. So if you sort of dial back and think and when it comes to my audience and what it is that the product and the transformation that I'm taking them through, what do they ultimately want solved? And then don't try to solve everything over one webinar. You want to definitely maybe 3 to 5 mega takeaway points or mega secrets or transformations so that they can have actionable takeaways. So ask yourself, what is the main thing that your audience wants? If they had a crystal ball and they could have something solved, what would that one thing be? What do they want? And then see what the 3 main points are that you can build your webinar around that topic. Felicia says, can you share a mock-up of your spreadsheet of what you track? Yeah, I don't really have a mock-up just because it's an internal spreadsheet, but it really has the webinar date. It has what day of the week it was. So was it a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? or was it what time it was? The next column is how many people registered. The next column is how many people showed. The next column is what the show percentage was. The next column is how many people that were live sold, so the number, and then I have percentage, and then I have the total number of people that registered that sold. And those are all the columns that I have.
Cool.
I have my spreadsheets memorized. I just realized.
So Katrina says, how many slides are in your webinar?
There used to be 90 and there's 160 now. Because I don't have animations going in my webinar. I have, I just bang them out like slide by slide. So I find that every thought while I'm talking, people stay engaged. I use GoToWebinar and actually can tell you when engagement drops and when people are not on their computer or when they're doing multiple things. And it can tell me who's doing it. So if you've been on my webinar, if you plan on coming on one, I can see when you're paying attention. But I've noticed that engagement is up when you're going fast. Right, so if you have a slide and you're knocking out like 2 or 3 bullet points, instead of me having those 2 or 3 bullet points on one slide, I'll have 5 slides. So every thought is a slide.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's a ton of slides.
Emily asks, what show percentage should I aim for?
Show percentage. Okay, so I like to get my show percentage about 30%. However, I'll be honest, show percentage has been going down, down, down. So I'm probably getting in the low 20s now, but I do aim for about 30% show. That's what you should aim for. What that means is that people are going to register and not everyone's going to show up, for those of you who are new to the whole webinar game. So you know, even though you'll have like 100 people register, it's normal to only have 30 people show up.
Okay. On that note, somebody else, Ryan asked, how do I get my registrants to actually show up for my webinar?
Yeah. So let's say you are, you've got a webinar date, you've got your opt-in page, and you're sending people to do this webinar 2 weeks from now. It's at 1 o'clock or whatever the time is. It's so important to send as much traffic as you can to that opt-in page because you want as many registrations as you can. But something that is equally as important is making sure that everyone has already registered actually shows up. So this is a big component that not a lot of people are getting right, and this is something that will really increase your show percentage. So I have what I call a push to show campaign. So as soon as they register, it's like, yes, confirmation, you're signed up for my webinar. Here's the date and time this is all going down. Plus, here is also a workbook. And then I have a sequence of emails, an autoresponder that is designed to get them excited, right? To talk to them about showing up live, to talk to them about what's happening on that date and time, so that it really creates that pre-webinar hype in their inbox every single day about showing up for a webinar. And my webinar show percentage is going down, and I just think that's because I've been doing them so much. But I'm going to be mirroring up a Facebook campaign for those people who've shown up to the webinar to remind them to show up. Because you could put all this energy into creating this amazing webinar presentation, and you could put all this energy into this incredible Facebook campaign to get people to your opt-in page, to get them signed up. But imagine the difference if I increase my show percentage from low 20% to 30+%, right? So it really is important to, a webinar for me that has 30% show versus 20% show, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in terms of sales when I actually do go to present. So getting my show percentage up is a huge, it's a huge priority in my webinar strategy. Make sense?
Yes. Next question, Julie also asked, what closing percentage should I be aiming for? Okay,
this depends on a lot of things. So I'll tell you what I know industry standards, and I really just, it's important to know what industry standards are so that you understand that if things are not working, it's not always you. And I always like to give my clients the breakdown in numbers. So for example, industry standards are probably around like 3 to 8% in terms of how many people that show up to your webinar buy. You can expect that. So if we use those numbers, right? So let's say you get 100 people to register for your webinar, and you get 30% to show up, which is good. So then you have 30% show up. If you only have 3% or so buy. It's normal if you don't make a sale on your webinar based on those numbers, right? So webinars is not one of these situations where does it work, does it not work? I am, webinar obsessed, so I would argue that it works 100% of the time if you have the right numbers, right? Because it's always, like email marketing, like anything else, it's a small percent of people that have to take action for things to be profitable. So the question was what?
What should she aim for?
What should you aim for? Okay, so when it's warm traffic, so when I'm emailing to my email list, and you guys see me email to my email list and invite to a new webinar, which is usually when I'm in one of my bigger launches, to a warm audience, I can close anywhere from 15 to 20%. So that's really high, but that's because the people that are coming on the webinar know me. They already have been on my list. They've probably already been on a webinar. So it's 15 to 20% for me, which I know is really good, but that's because they're warm, they're nurtured. So if it's cold traffic, which is my main lead generation strategy, every single month I run at least 4 live webinars to cold traffic. So this is my list builder, right? So on those webinars, closing can be anywhere from 5 to 10%.
Okay. So kind of similar, Chloe said, what if I open the Q&A and then there's nobody answering her questions?
Yeah, okay. So if you're doing this webinar and it's your first couple times, like it's your first time doing the webinar, first of all, my first 10 webinars completely tanked, completely bombed, were epic fails. I was convinced that webinars don't work. I'm contacting all my friends, online friends that are doing webinars and are selling on webinars. And I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing? I consider myself an okay salesperson, so why are my webinars not working? It's one of these things that there's a lot of moving pieces, so you have to stick it, you really have to tough it out for the long haul. You really just need to be in it and get used to it. And a lot of that also includes creating that excitement and that atmosphere throughout your webinar, but then in your Q&A. So I always have a few questions lined up, ready to go for my Q&A. The Q&A is where the sales happen. So the Q&A is where you will actually, you're done your presentation, you open up to Q&A. I always have my 3 main questions that I have in my pocket in case there's no, questions, and then I continue to sell in my Q&A. I'm not just sitting there and passively waiting to answer people's questions. I'm using the Q&A to answer questions, but also if I'm answering a question for one person, I'm answering it in mind with everybody else. So it turned it into a sales opportunity. So think about what the main objections everyone who's on your webinar, when it comes to the, buying your product, what would be the main objections that they have, and line that up in Q&A. For example, someone might say something like, is this program, how fast can I see results, or is this guaranteed? Then you would have that question lined up and then answer it, and then have a few more lined up. So, I mean, the answer to that question is I need you to kind of create the hype if it's not there, and not have a, not let yourself go down this path of feeling nervous or worried because no one's asking questions. You ask the questions and make it happen and create that hype. Make it up.
Felicia and also Sky both asked, do you send the replay to everyone who registers?
Okay, yeah, I think Felicia asked that too. The replay, I used to send it out to all registrations, and if you're just starting out with webinars, I want you to send it out to all registrations, because segmenting your list with people who show and who don't show and all that kind of stuff, it gets a little bit tricky. There's a little more techie steps involved. Depending on which webinar software you're using, you might not be able to do that. So I used to send it out to everyone. Now, because I'm running them so frequently and I don't want people to get into the habit of registering just so that they can get the replay, I am no longer sending it to the people who do not show up. But that's only up, that's very recent in my business, and webinars have been insane for me in terms of sales. So I've been sending it out to everyone, and sales do trickle through in the replay. So, short answer is, if you're just starting, send it to everyone with the replay. Make it a limited time, pull the replay down, offer the webinar bonus in the replay, and then when you're cozier with webinars and you've been doing it for a while, you can start segmenting based on people who've shown up, giving them the offer because they showed up, and then people who did not show up, you can say, hey, what happened? Where were you? You signed up for my webinar and I missed you. You can sign up again for my next date, kind of thing, which is what I'm doing now.
Okay. So Khaled asked, how do you transition into the selling in your webinar?
No, that's a good question. Okay, so this is like a tricky transition, right? So actually, I take that back. I don't want you to think it's a tricky transition because it's going to get all in your head. Because the reality is, it's all in your head, right? So you're on the webinar and you're presenting this awesome information, and you know that that slide is coming up where you're going to start making the offer. So I just want you to step back from this and say, you know, people that are on your webinar, they're interested in something, they are interested in the topic that you've presented. You want to make sure that no matter what, whether they buy or whether they do not buy, that they've received value out of the presentation. But at the end of the day, you are going to be making an offer, and there will be a number of people that are going to be listening to you live that are waiting for you to make this offer, that know you're going to be making an offer, and that want your offer. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow, and I've had people emailing me saying, I want to get into your program, I'm coming to the webinar tomorrow. So I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't make the offer. That being said, you want to make sure that you're giving people value and you're delivering what you promised your webinar is going to offer. So I make sure that the value is in the webinar, and that the value is in the beginning portion of the webinar. If my webinar is 1 hour long, I have to transition about at the 30-minute mark. So that's why I don't want you guys to be creating these webinars and telling people everything you know. You want to teach a small portion, a small transformation with maybe 3 main points, and at the 30-minute mark you want to be transitioning into the selling part. So now the question becomes, how do I go from providing free content to like selling? So you can have a few different transition sentences, and you definitely want to have a transition slide. So in my webinars, what I usually say is something like, I've been teaching you guys this information, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you guys about building your own, I usually say whatever it is that you're offering. So in my case is building your own online business. So then I get an audience engagement question. They're like 10, 10, 10. And I'm like, awesome. Now you've got 2 choices. The first choice you have is you can plug away. I've taught you all these things that you need to know. You can do this, you can do that. I just quickly repeat what I taught on the webinar within the first half an hour. Or the second choice is you can do it with me as your coach, as I take you hand by hand. We're going to go through this entire process, and I'm going to get this thing done with you. I'm so excited to announce that I'm accepting new students, or that I'm opening enrollment into my program. Everything that I've been teaching you about, I put this into a program, and then you transition into the program. I put it into a program, or I put this into a coaching offer, or I'm taking on new clients. Let me tell you what this is all about. And then you say it's an online coaching program, or it's a in-person coaching program, or it's a one-on-one coaching program, and now you've transitioned into your program offer. So you're not going to start selling. You're going to start talking to them about your program. So you transition into here are your options. You can either do this, or you can do it with me as your coach. I'm so excited to announce whatever you're announcing. Here is what this is. Here is what you get. Here is what you can expect. Here are some case studies. And obviously you're asking, what is the investment? And then you get into the investment. So yeah, that's how I transition, and it totally works fine. Thanks. Felicia says she likes my transition. Well, thank you. Blake is saying, might have already answered this, but favorite webinar platform starting out versus your current go-to. Okay, so my favorite webinar I use, okay, so currently I am using GoToWebinar for my actual webinar presentation. My opt-in page is Lead Pages integrated with Infusionsoft. So that's Infusionsoft is my email auto responder. However, if you are just starting out, and for many of my clients inside my programs, I don't want you to get Infusionsoft. It's clunky, it's a whole big thing. If you're advanced, I love it, but there's a mega learning curve. It's steep, and I don't want you guys going through that deep dive, and it's not necessary to kill it on webinars. So I would recommend in that case, I like GoToWebinar because in terms of tech problems and things, I just find it to be the most reliable. So I would do GoToWebinar, Aweber, and then Lead Pages for webinar registrations. I also have EverWebinar with Webinar Jam. They kind of come together for my automated webinars. I have run live webinars on there. It is cheaper. I'm not in love with the platform yet. Maybe it's because I don't know it like I know GoToWebinar. That being said, I'm obsessed with Zoom, which if you're in my programs, you know I use for my coaching. And Zoom also has a webinar platform now, and I've been on Zoom hosted webinars, and I really like it. So that might be something that I want to explore, but I'm not sure yet. So those are the ones that I know of, and of course I can only speak to the ones I know of.
So on that topic, Ryan also asked you, do I have to do my webinar live?
Yes. You definitely want to. So the question he's asking, a lot of people have automated webinars, right? So the presentation is pre-recorded, and then you have automated webinar software such as EverWebinar. And there's a whole bunch of others where the recording plays and it could be simulated to be live, or it could just be a recording. The question is, can I just create a recording and then have it go on autopilot? In theory, that sounds really freaking awesome. Like, I'm just gonna turn the tap on and present my webinar all the time and not even have to be there. The problem is it converts a lot less than a live webinar, and unless you've successfully pulled off live webinars and they're converting and they're happening, which is an art within itself, the presentation and everything around it, I really do not recommend you going automated. I've seen it work 0% of the time. So I want you to make sure that you are able to sell and convert on a live webinar before thinking about switching it automated. I've presented probably about 200 live webinars, and I'm just within the last couple of months turned some of them automated.
So the last question is from Chloe, and she said, will you show us your exact webinar funnel at the live event? So at the webinar.
Yeah, okay. So I'm having a live event in Toronto on March 11th. You guys have seen me talk about it. If you're on my email list, you've been getting those emails as well. Because webinars, I always say, like, it's not just the presentation. You want to get the presentation right. You want to get the transition right. I mean, in terms of going from your free presentation over to your selling portion, and then that has an art within itself in terms of how you stack your offers and adding bonuses and time sensitivities to the replay, to all these different things. So you have the presentation in itself, and then you've got that push to show portion that I talked to you about. Then you got to get your registrations to your opt-in page. Then you got to get people to show up, and then you got to get people to buy after. And then you want to use this one webinar in isolation of a larger strategy to build your list, and then get them on a warm webinar where you convert higher, as I discussed if you've been hanging out on this video. So it sounds like a lot, because it is. I don't ever want to be like, it's no big deal, because webinars, there's a whole thing to it. But it's not that complicated. There are just a lot of moving pieces. I think that's the best way I know how to describe it. There's just a lot of different things. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. It's one of these things that it's kind of plug and play, where it would, you just redo my slides. So those of you who are coming to March 11th, you're going to get my slide templates and redo my slides, rewrite my emails, and then plug it into your software. A lot of that writing and slide stuff I want you guys to do before the event, so that during the event we can talk about your strategy and your numbers, and making sure that your offer makes sense when it comes to doing your numbers. If you catch the live video I did last week, there's a mega difference between offering coaching or a $500+ product than offering a lower ticket product. So if you're offering something that's a couple $100 and you don't have a large list of warm buyers, it's going to make this whole funnel really expensive. So I want to make sure that I know what you're selling and how much your offer is worth, and what your strategy is going to be, so that we can make sure that your first webinar is profitable. So the answer to that question, sorry, I forgot the name.
Chloe.
Chloe, the answer to the question is yes. You'll be getting all my templates and all my slides with the homework to get that stuff all done, and I'll be vetting your topic and everything as we go in there, and you'll be launching your first webinar. I'll be holding you accountable to an action plan, so that everyone who comes has a date for their live webinar and a funnel in place. So yeah, it's so exciting.
That's all.
That's all. Okay, so thanks guys for showing up live. If you have questions when you're watching this back about webinars, please do ask in the comments and let me know. And hope to see you guys on the 11th in the T-Dot. Happy Valentine's Day! All my lovers out there.